I think it's unfortunate that they have done it administratively, where the city has not. The city has imposed taxes through voter referendum. But that's their business. That's up to them to decide. I think the city has done a very good job in making sure that we are transparent about our taxing authority and how we impose that taxing authority. As a county resident and someone who is going to have to pay that increase and who may not see any potential benefit to it, you know, I bring it up as a resident, and it's something that they need to pay attention to. So I stand in support of the bill. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor Maestas?
Yep, Mayor, I just wanted to acknowledge for the record, you know, we did get an explanation from the Vice Chair of the Santa Fe County Commission, Commissioner Anna Hansen, so I just wanted to acknowledge, you know, her efforts to try and maybe expand on the rationale on their potential decision, and then I think she kind of gave us a primer in terms of how county taxation revenues benefit the city, but I wanted to acknowledge that, and I guess, and I know, you know, this was a very rapidly developing decision, and we're fortunate as a city, you know, we are the county seat, but I feel for the communities of Edgewood and Espanola that may not have an opportunity to weigh in on it in their own communities, to encourage their own constituents to weigh in on it. And so I realize my primary concern, of course, is the city of Santa Fe, but I just feel for Edgewood and Espanola. And that's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilor Rivera.
Thank you, Mayor. Brian, have we even talked, or have you sat with the county manager to talk about what's going to be on the agenda, and if they move through with implementation of this tax prior to our meeting, what else are we going to meet about?
Mayor, Councilor Rivera, I've had a conversation Friday afternoon late with Catherine on some general topics. Largely the meeting is scheduled, was one, to have this item on there, and then two, that's assuming they don't move forward with it before June 15th, and then just a larger conversation on opportunities for the city and the county to collaborate, areas of concern, whether it be, Councilor Dominguez mentioned RECC in the past, whether that's still a concern or not, and other areas, whether it be, I've heard conversations about annexation still is a concern to some commissioners. So the agenda has not been finalized yet, but it's up for discussion. But the goal is to come up with an agenda with some broad topics and conversations around some areas where we can collaborate.
So even if this goes through, would there be room to discuss where the funding would go in these meetings, or what it would be used for?
Mayor, Councilor Rivera, I believe the county has a plan for where the funding is going to be utilized. I've talked loosely with Catherine about behavioral health, fire, public safety, RECC needs. Those are the areas that they're looking at funding, and there's probably others as well.
Okay, that was all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
I would just add, you know, councilors and Councilor Maestas, I think when the initial resolution came out, I had some initial concern about you know, the council trying to weigh in on clearly some prerogatives of the commission. Having sat in a commissioner's seat, often would you know, struggle over the fact that the city was able to do so well and the county was struggling, and you know, we didn't have the ability of the GRT capacity that currently exists. So it's hard to know what I would have done in that position. But I think your point is very clear in terms of certainly what I heard during this recent election from many people about the fact that the issue of taxation and the burden of having to cover more and more costs is just something that clearly our community is not wanting to do right now. And I do think that we are in positions of elected office to be able to represent our constituency when appropriate. And I think your resolution does offer our ability to use our voices. I will say this as well, though, in something that you have basically preached to the choir for a long period of time, and that is that we're in this position because our state really has not been able to find a proper way to decouple the taxation policies of the state and the local government. So it puts us in these very difficult circumstances with our constituencies where the state abdicates its responsibility and local governments are left to have to pick up the tab. And picking up the tab, it's very limited in the amount of revenues that we have. Gross receipts tax is very regressive. Property taxes, when you have high property values and stagnant wages, are very tough to look at when it comes to tax increases. And so again, I hate to always be pointing the finger at the state, but that really is what's forcing, I think, the issue. If the county's trying to address behavioral health and other issues, and we're trying to address quality of life issues, they just have not really stepped up, and it's an unfortunate situation, but a reality that we all have to act on. I will also say and point to this is that under this governing board and the administration, I will say that for 3 years, we have struggled to bring financial reform, to overcome a deficit, to bring transparency, and to the success, we've been able to do that without raising gross receipts taxes. And I think that without knowing if the county has actually undergone such an effort to try and figure out how to cover some of these additional costs by looking at efficiencies, I think that that's always a place that we have to go to first before asking the public to raise taxes. The other thing I will say is that we cannot discount the fact that that the city continues to do well, continues to be a place that people are investing in, and most recent reports show that for the first 3 months of the year, property values have been continuously on the rise, and the number one benefactor of property values rising is the county, right? If property values rise, assessed values go up, more money's come into the county. So I think that this effort of the city to try and regrow our economy and try to get moving again has had a direct benefit on the county's coffers that should be considered before there's any type of gross receipts tax that goes into place. And so I'm very cautious about trying to express or to state what I think the county commissioners should do, because I do think that they are taking their jobs very seriously and they're in a position where they're trying to figure out how to go forward. I do think that raising gross receipts taxes at a time when they're already high in the city, when after implemented will take us to one of the highest in the state, which will create a further competitive barrier to attracting businesses and will only prove to shoulder the responsibility of those tax increases on the working poor, that we do have to stand up and say, no, this is not the right place to go right now, and you got to find another place. So I initially was reluctant when you had proposed it, but after some consideration and really thinking through and listening to the debate over the course of the period of time, I think it's the right vehicle for this governing body to express our concern. And I will also point to Councilor Trujillo's point is that, we've had a series of conversations with the commission over the last 2 years. There's not as much participation or follow-up that we need to do from those conversations, but we've met with them. And so the issue of having the dialogue has been in place. It's tough, as we know, for two governments to create alignment when that's not mandatory. And I think that maybe through this round of conversations, we'll be able to find our way to finding some ways that we can work together, but we have to show up to those meetings and actually participate. So I think that those are key in being able to move forward. So I do think that the call to ask them to push the brakes a little bit until we have that meeting is going to be a critical one.
Mayor, just on the point of broader tax policy, and I think the constituents out there need to understand that we're 75% reliant on gross receipts taxes, but yet we're expected to provide stable services. We can't provide stable services when we're reliant on unstable revenue sources like gross receipts taxes. It's taken us a long time to come out of this recession. And so my hope, Mayor, is maybe you can communicate with the legislative majority and even the executive and tell them, look, cities can no longer operate this way. We live and die by the health of the economy. And then another side note, as you know, part of our tax policy platform is we're a home rule city. We're allowed the opportunity to have our own charter and realize our destiny through self-government. But the legislature says, wait, but you only have limited taxation authority. And every economy is different, as you know, Mayor, of every city across the state. But we're given kind of a cookie cutter approach, a cookie cutter menu for possible revenues. And so if we're going to be a real home rule city, we should have all the taxation authority possible. And it doesn't necessarily have to be gross receipts taxes, as you know. There's other sin taxes that we're forbidden to impose. So I think this illustrates really the kind of the soft underbelly of our tax code and how the cities haven't been treated right, and especially home rule cities. We're not truly autonomous until we're given full authority in every sense of the word. So I'm glad you brought that up, Mayor. Thank you.
Well, even more piercing is the fact that they actually are considering a food tax as part of their GRT reform, right? So that is the frustration out of all of this, but it is what it is. Councilor Trio, did you have?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, no, I just want to say, I do understand we've had conversations with the county, but the last meeting I recall us having with the county was dealing with the annexation and the leftover part of what hadn't been done between this county and the city. I mean, maybe I wasn't privy to go to those meetings.
There was one.
You know,
There's been a couple sets.
Well, I
Yeah,
haven't.
they've all been, you've been at them, Councilor.
Well, I've been to that, but that was the last one I remember. I mean, the
we-
thing is, I wanted to have one with the schools as well, dealing with Lafarge and all that. You know,
We had in February, we had a meeting about tourism and economic development. We talked, I think Kate Noble was there. Regional discussion about OTAB. There was a big issue about OTAB. But the underlying factor that is really kind of gnawing at the county is the agreement that we have with them regarding annexation.
Exactly.
The RECC, and their, I guess maybe a different county commission feels that that a different county commission spoke for them, and so.
No, I remember, and that we were part of that. We were part of that. I understand that, and I mean, these are the discussions I don't, like Councilor, you got to ask, what's on the agenda? We haven't seen what the agenda is, scheduled. So I'm hoping these things are on the agenda so we can actually have that conversation between the two entities. It needs to happen. That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. All right. Roll call.
Councillor Harris? Yes. Councillor Ives?
Yes.
Councillor Lindell? Yes. Councillor Maestas?
Yes.
Councillor Rivera?
Yes.
Councillor Trujillo?
Yes.
Councillor Dominguez? Yes. Mayor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion is approved.
Okay, matters from the governing body. Let's see. We'll start with Councilor Trio. Councilor Harris.
Since it's a special meeting, just want to remember Wednesday, opening night for the Fuego. I'm inviting everybody to go there. So
What time?
6 p.m. and I can only buy 3 beers, so I can only buy 3 of you beers.
much
So that's
wine?
it, because I will not be drinking. So just so you know that.
How much wine?
And wine you can buy as many, three as well. Well, I can only buy 3 of either one, so just leave it at that.
Councilor Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to follow up on something that I mentioned the last time we met. So I've seen a notice of, for instance, that there's a debriefing on from the pre-K folks on the 25th, later this week. I don't know, I assume that the Better Way group has done some sort of debriefing. And what I mentioned a couple weeks ago is that I would like a debriefing and to be conducted by our Ethics and Campaign Finance Committee. So I'm looking at the powers and duties of the committee, and it seems to me like this could fall under their purview. When under item E, the board shall periodically review and recommend changes to the governing body for improving the code of ethics, the election code, the campaign code, or the public campaign finance code, particularly following a municipal election. Okay, a little bit more specific, but I think still falls within it under letter B. The board shall establish reasonable rules of practice and procedure which are not in conflict with the provisions of city code or other city rules of practice and procedures, timetables and explanatory materials designed to educate the public, to encourage voluntary compliance, and to ensure fair and prompt disposition of alleged violations. So I don't know if this needs a determination of any sort from the city manager or city attorney, but I would really, as a member of the governing body, would like for them to, in fairly short order, we all know how, as time lapses, people forget, and but I would really appreciate that particular committee's effort, that board effort, I should say, to look at the past special election. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Lindell? No. Nothing for me. Councilor Dominguez? Councilor Ives? Oh, Councilor
Real
Dominguez?
quick, well, I guess at 6:20 is when we'll reconvene finance.
Right. Councilor Ives? Councilor Rivera?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to introduce a resolution just for, because of time issues with this, but increasing the compensation awarded to the contractor for services rendered in organization of the 4th of July fireworks show to $35,000, waiving all fees associated with the production of the event. We have been in contact once we found out Boys and Girls Club, we're not going to be able to continue to do it. In contact with, am I okay to say, with Kiwanis about putting it on, which also included a venue change, which I assume will come forth with this. And I applaud them for stepping up, and I applaud the Boys and Girls Club for coming to the table and sitting down and really talking about what worked for them, what didn't work, and how to make it a better fireworks show moving forward. I'm supporting this because, again, I think a fireworks show, especially in Santa Fe, when you never know if it's going to be very dry, if it's going to be moist out there, but I think it's important to have a venue and a place where people can go and enjoy a good show and not have to go places to get their own fireworks or come to their own means of celebrating the 4th. So thank you, Mayor.
And I just want to say on behalf of all of us and the city, Councilor Rivera, thank you for really rolling up your sleeves from the earliest announcement. You got to work with Kiwanis and the others to try and make sure this is a reality. So I think for what's being asked, it certainly seems something that would be appropriate to support. So thank you for that.
Thanks. I think Councilor Dominguez wanted to sign on as a co-sponsor, and Councilor Trujillo as well. So great. I also wanted to bring up one more thing, either Brian or Yolanda. I've noticed that the Shell stations, the one on Airport Road and the one on Cerrillos and Airport, that they're starting to serve beer from the tap. And I don't think you can buy a glass of it, but you can fill up a container and then take it with you. So it's either, I don't know what size container it is, but you can fill up a bottle from the tap and then take it out with you. So will you look into that? I don't know if that's part of their liquor license or not, but if we can look into it, that would be great. Thank you. Is it?
Councilor Rivera, where's the fireworks show planned for?
The Kiwanis has been speaking to Santa Fe Place Mall.
Oh, great.
And they think that's going to be probably the best venue.
Okay, thanks. Just wanted to check on that.
It's not going to be at the MRC with the animals. And
That's what I was trying to figure out. Okay, do we have any other business to take care of? Okay, we're adjourned. We'll be back at 6:20.